I get a lot of messages from people asking about the work I do. What inspires me to make videos? How did I join the Brony fandom? What do I hope to see in MLP's future? But one question that has been getting more frequent lately is how I find the drive to keep making all these videos so consistently. I suppose I could talk about the process I go through for each project and how it really isn't as hard as some people make it out to be. And one of these days perhaps I will show everything that goes into making a video. But the more I look at these questions about how I find the time to keep up this kind of schedule, the more I come to realize that the answer isn't really so much about teaching my process, but rather about building better habits. I've lost count of how many times I've seen messages from people saying how they wish they had the time and/or motivation to create projects of their own. Now, I've created a few other videos that would connect with this subject, and I hope that some of you will take a look at the encouraging creativity within the Brony fandom and why has Twilight succeeded where others had failed projects, as they do relate with what I intend to talk about today, because it's not just about finding that inner spark to create something you can be proud of. This kind of subject has a lot to do with how to succeed in life. Change comes by substituting good habits for less desirable ones. You mold your character and future by good thoughts and acts. For example, let's talk for a bit about Twilight Sparkle. Of course, she was immensely fortunate to have been gifted with a natural talent for magic, not to mention being the personal student of Princess Celestia herself. But I think we can all agree that Twilight has had to work very hard throughout her life in order to come this far. She has spent her days in constant study, seeking to learn, to improve, to better herself. And though she did not always have the right answers to every problem she came across, she was able to take advantage of immense opportunities because others around her noticed how much she could accomplish. We sow our thoughts and we reap our actions. We sow our actions and we reap our habits. We sow our habits and we reap our characters. We sow our characters and we reap our destiny. But what about those who aren't born with such marvelous gifts? What if instead you came into more humble surroundings and didn't have access to all those same opportunities? Well, let's talk for a bit about Applejack. Now, she has a loving family, a successful apple orchard, and seems to be doing pretty well in life overall. But she's had to deal with her share of struggles and even tragedies. Though we don't have confirmation on when her parents passed on, it is clear that she's had to pick up the slack around the farm. Not only with helping Big Mac in the apple orchard, but also assisting Granny Smith in many ways, and most importantly, raising her younger sister Apple Bloom. And she is quite content with how her life turned out, despite having lived a life of hard work and even some tragic circumstances. Now, there are those who could say that she didn't really have much choice in the matter, but I would like to point out she did have a chance for a very different life. She could have stayed in Manhattan, be raised by the Oranges, who were welcoming Applejack into their lives, and perhaps would have even treated her like they would their own daughter. She'd have had a far easier upbringing, and many more opportunities laid open for her. But Applejack realized that she was needed far more back at home. I'm sure that even then she would have understood how much harder her life would be compared to staying with the Oranges. But she chose the harder life because she knew it was right. And she dedicated herself to being the best she could be for all those around her. It would have been rather difficult to manage that kind of life, having others depend on you so much. But it became easier over time because Applejack chose to develop her talents and build upon those good habits. And she has been quite the inspiration for all those around her. We are not born into this world with fixed habits, nor do we inherit a noble character. Instead, we are given the privilege and opportunity of choosing which way of life we will follow, which habits we will form. Confucius said that the nature of men is always the same. It is their habits that separate them. I'm often troubled when I come across people who seem to think that they only need to wait for their chance to come along and then their lives will get better. That somehow they will instantly become this great person they know they are capable of being if someone else will only give them that opportunity. It's rather worrisome that there are those who keep looking for the shortcuts in life because they think that's the only way to get ahead. They don't seem to care much about the person they are now. Whether you are given marvelous opportunities in life, or you have to deal with tragic circumstances at a young age, you will still have to decide what kind of person you're going to be long before you get to be that person. Good habits are not acquired simply by making good resolves, though the thought must precede the action. Good habits are developed in our daily lives. It is not in the great moments of test and trial that character is built. That is only when it is displayed. The habits that direct our lives and form our character are fashioned in the often uneventful, commonplace routine of life. They are acquired by practice. People ask me how I'm able to keep up with this kind of schedule, how I can dedicate myself to making all these videos on top of having a full-time career, and it has far more to do with building better habits in the everyday. I can remember long ago when I used to spend countless hours playing video games, or watching TV, or even just staring at the wall wondering when my life was going to change for the better. Nowadays, I have grown to despise that feeling of idleness, because I remember quite clearly what it did to my self-confidence, my motivation, my zest for living life. So if you happen to be asking how you can change for the better, my advice is to put aside doing what's easy. Start challenging yourself a little bit more each and every day. Encourage better habits, because it is in the small and simple ways that we begin to define who we are and who we will be. Each and every one of us has a choice in our futures. What kind of person will you be? I would like to hear your thoughts about changing our habits, and perhaps we can discover just what we are capable of in life. I am Dr. Wolf, and I look forward to hearing from you.